live. Hi, Ashley. So why don't we start with Scrum first? See, Robert, you were first. No, Ashley. No, Susanna, you were first up, I think. I forget. Anyway, let's just go from right to left as I see it. Susanna, you want to give a quick update?
I've gone through the pivotal tracker and removed items that were really old and are already done.
Good.
And also looked through trying to find my tasks, but I didn't find any, so I have to keep looking. And then I found this bug. Stop.
Okay, great. That's good activity. Grooming the backlog is great. Robert, how about yourself?
Yeah, short and sweet. I didn't have any time for SHF this week, so nothing to report.
Okay, all right, good enough. Hi, Matt. How about yourself?
Hello. I'm just pulling up Pivotal Tracker. So I finished up the 336 add unit test for user full name, and I started working on add search to user index. And I checked your comments, and I'm just started working on making those updates.
I also added some comments about 10 minutes ago. You may not have seen those yet, Matt, but
Okay.
yeah, you are a little faint, Matt.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, how's that?
That's better.
Should I restart, or did you guys catch what I was saying?
No, you're good. So you finished up that PR you had in place. I merged it this morning because I think it's all done. And then I made some, yeah, okay, you saw those comments. All right, let's see. Ashley, you want to go?
Yeah, not a lot of SHF stuff. Good short meeting with Susanna and Bella in that talking about modeling stuff. Looked at PRs a little, and that's about it. Throat is
Okay.
irritated today from smoke, so I'm gonna muting and stuff.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of smoke out there, I know. For myself, I've been working on PR reviews. So actually just recently looked at Matt's. And Matt's, I added more comments about 10 minutes ago. Maybe after this meeting, if you and I can hang out a little bit so I can explain some of that stuff.
Sure.
That would be great. Let's see what else. I added some more documentation to our wiki page on HIPS. I took the screenshot that we have from their site, which is their cost structure, and I translated that via Google and put that on the wiki page, so we have more information there. The meeting notes from the client meeting. I think I have one question to put on the parking lot. We can come back to that later if we have time on the meeting notes. And I think that's it for me. So that's it for Scrum. I guess parking lot issues, I've got 3 I've noted. One is this production problem with a password change that Susanna was mentioning. 2, I think we have deployment issues to our staging environment at Heroku, I guess. And 3, I do have that question regarding client meeting notes. But anybody else have anything for the parking lot?
No.
So we probably should do that, and then if we have time, we'll just start going through Pivotal Tracker as we usually do, but it sounds like we have some critical stuff like this production thing. Susanna, do you want to show us what you're looking at?
Yep. I can try.
Do we know when was the last time we pushed to production?
When you told me to.
Okay, that was a week before last or something like that.
So at the moment, when I try to change this person's password, I chose whatever, and then I get, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And then A problem prevented. First name, last name.
Yeah.
Can we go to see the user's view in the menu there?
Like me as a user?
No, the
Or
hamburger,
all users?
upper left, all users, yeah. And who's the user here? Can you click on that? Does it just give you the same
That's where I
view?
was.
So there's nothing there for us to edit
No.
the user on their behalf?
Mm.
Oh, that's not good.
Edit. So it should be edit. But it's not.
So we probably only have a page for the user himself to change the first and last name.
Yes. But if she don't know her password, she can't log in to add that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did the message say about changing the password, that it couldn't, there was a problem, it couldn't send email, or?
No. Email is fine. But when you click the email and try to change your password, it asks for a first and last name. But there's no box to enter your first and last name.
Yeah.
At the same thing happens when you're an admin. You can change to English, so it might be easier.
Yeah, there's some error messages that came up. Something about must exist. I'm starting to recognize those words in Swedish.
There.
Here. First,
Yeah.
How many people do we have in the database that are current members
Most
but don't
of them.
have first or last name?
No, not most of them. This is not a member, but this is a person who wants to become a member.
Just users, I guess, that don't have first or last name.
Yes. So all those who are yellow here, I guess.
Yeah, we did identify this as a problem, but we didn't think of it again.
Well, I think
this
the idea
one
was
is
that
test.
once they can edit their own profile, they can fix that. But if they don't remember their password to access their profile edit page,
Yeah.
that's the catch-22 here.
sorry, say that again.
So if they don't have a name, whether they're a member or not, if they don't have a first or last name, they can fix that when they log in by editing their profile through the pull down in the upper right. But if they can't log in because they don't remember their password, then they can't do that.
Huh.
And if we as an admin can't change their password either because it's balking at first and last name are not present in the user instance, then we have a catch-22 here. There's no way we can fix it through our UI right now.
Right.
There's a quick fix of putting empty strings in them or something.
You could do that, yeah. You could put empty strings in first name and last name with their nil right now. Only when they're nil.
Yeah.
And then everybody will be able to change their password if they need to, and then fill it out for real. So do you have access to do that, Susanna? To go in and just do that at the SQL level?
Probably, but I don't know how.
Okay. Do you really want to do that as a solution?
No, but it would be a quick fix. There's probably a better solution.
But then we'll keep having problems later on with first and last name that aren't recognized as missing.
Not for
But
any new
no.
users joining, because we force first and last name to be entered when they first join now.
But for all the existing users.
Yeah. So the other, I don't know if it'd be a quick fix. We could just take off the model validation of first and last name presence.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything else will break though. And then turn it on once we've got everybody's first or last name in there. We should do an assessment of how many users have this problem. Probably
I think
most
all of them. All of
Probably,
the no's.
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe most of the yeses too, right?
Well, yes, maybe, but don't you fetch their name from the application?
Well, at the top, what's it say? So at the top of that view, the reason why we've used email, I think, is that we didn't have first and last name for most people. So I think that should normally be their first and last name at the top of the page there.
But as soon as they have a membership, they have to fill in the first and last name.
Yes.
Do they? Is that what we?
Yeah, that was part of the membership application. It used to be, and now it's part of the user, but it used to be of the membership application.
So those with yeses should have fetched.
First and last name.
Yeah.
Do we show those fields when we click on the show view? We don't even show the first and last name in the system now. We do not. Okay.
And can't we just disable the check for first and last name for the unless it's an administrator?
I have a suggestion. This is what the course suggested you do in the situation is add an extra field to flag the rows that have been updated, the ones that are still in the old format. And then we can add a, in the validations, we can add a condition where we check whether it's updated. And then once all of the fields, I mean, all the rows, all the users have been updated, we can remove it.
So add a status flag that shows that these particular records need different handling and status. And then once there are no more of those records flagged, we can go back to a cleaner approach. Is that kind of the overview of that, Matthew?
Yes, basically.
Sounds good.
So
Yeah.
The problem is that if we have that crutch there, we'll never get some of these people to. No, I guess once they assume membership, they have to enter first and last name. So we're okay there.
it would have to
But
be.
still,
active.
it's a very small problem because it's only when they forget their password.
Exactly.
And then there's always an administrator that will update the password. So
Yeah.
if we just add an unless administrator
Yeah.
to the
Kind of.
check, it sounds easier.
It does. I like Matt's idea, but I think Robert's right. It might be easy to do that. We'd have to test it extensively, make sure nothing else breaks. But that would allow the administrator to change the password. The email would go out. Refresh my memory. Are we doing confirmable password changes? Or does the email just say somebody changed your password? We hope it was you.
No, when admin changes the password, there is no email, is there?
Actually, there is. I'm looking at the log right now. Hold on, I'll see if I can do a screenshot. There's an email that goes out, but I'm not sure if this email is to the admins or the user. Post it in Slack in a second here, and Susanna, you can translate me.
Well, I sent for an email for her via device before
Right.
I tried to change her password.
Okay. I'm looking at the log just of what you did just moments ago, just working on this.
So we are using the devise module recoverable. So I'm assuming that's what we're doing with that email. And there's a link in there that says click this and you would go to a place where you can re-enter a change password.
Exactly.
That's how, okay, that is how it works. All right, so we are doing that then.
But she can't because of validations.
Yeah. If we change this so the admin can change the password without enforcing first and last name,
Yes.
the email will still, well, again, we got to figure this out. or
the email will go out and it still won't work, and then they will probably contact an admin.
the email go out and it won't work because why?
Because they're not an admin.
No, the email goes out and it has a link that they click to go back to the system and enter a new password, right? Why would that not work?
Because it needs first and last name.
Yeah, we still get the first last name circular.
Because we are updating it, and that will kick off the validation of everything in the user model when we update just the password.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like it would be great if somebody sketched out just bullet points or wrote down and then took a picture of it and posted it. The logic and the flow of what's happening now, so that
I like Robert's idea of
yeah, wait, let me finish this.
okay.
Just so that we understand a little bit about how we got to this. I mean, I think we understand how we got to it, but just to make it clear, and then yeah, somebody can take this on to propose a fix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And do it.
Yeah, so I think, as Robert suggested, one fix is the validations don't occur if the admin is the user. The other, it sounds like we're getting it also. We also have to add a lambda to the presence of test that says don't validate presence of first and last if an update is occurring that includes the password being updated.
Yeah.
Kind of cumbersome, but one can do that. So it's basically all about that, adapting that validates presence of statement in the user model. A couple of things there probably would do it.
Yeah, I think yours would be great because it would hold on for the future too. Because it would only kick in when there's a password change, and not in all the other cases where we do want the first and last name checked.
And it's a diminishing problem. Anybody joining now, they can't be a user without giving first and last name.
Yeah.
So as we go forward, the problem dissipates.
Right.
So Ashley, do you want to do that, or do you want to just create a story and somebody pull this and play with these fixes we're talking about and see if they can come up with something?
Yeah, I could create the story, and if somebody else can do it, that would be great. Yep. One thing, my parking lot issue is just about my time and focus on the project, so we can get to that at some point.
Okay. So we'll definitely need it's too bad our testing didn't pick this up, but oh well. It'll be part of the story.
Right.
Okay, are we good on that then?
Yeah, I will be glad to pick it up tonight because I've just got a cancellation, so I've got more time tonight than I thought.
Oh, great! Thank you. That's helpful. Okay, moving on then. So, do we want to talk about the Heroku deployment issues next?
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I haven't had a chance to look at that, but certainly saw it.
What did you see?
So in Slack, in the SHF Notify channel, if you scroll up, oh, look, yours failed to deploy also. You'll see a semaphore, showing a red warning with a little explosion thing saying, this failed to deploy. And then I just looked at that, clicked on that link that's helpfully in there. Excuse me. And you can see in the semaphore page that comes up what the error is.
Can you?
I can share my screen if that's helpful.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Can't find it. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can't find a Slack item, but
Okay, hold on. All right.
failed to deploy. Oh, I see that. Yeah.
So here's the Slack.
Oh, yeah. 41.
This one, and then I just click on the link and it'll take me, and I see the semaphore. Maybe I am logged in to semaphore and a member of this of SHF project according to what semaphore knows about the project. And then this text is kind of tiny.
So we changed organization on GitHub, and so that new organization probably needs to be reintegrated with Semaphore CI, I'd imagine, right? I don't.
Yeah, that very well may be in it.
This may be something that Laura's going to have to do because she's got the keys to that new organization part up now. I bet that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe you, Susanna.
Mm-hmm.
You may have these credentials also.
Probably.
So Susanna, can you look at this?
I am.
Likely to have the credentials. Sure, Heroku and GitHub. Talk to each other.
Did Laura make us part of the Agile Ventures organization, and we were not before? Is that what she did? I don't know the details there.
But didn't she do that a week ago or so? And this just started today?
No.
No,
I saw one a few
Yeah.
days ago.
Oh, okay.
Because we haven't been as active as in past.
So let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at the dashboard now on Semaphore CI. And let's see, as early as Monday of this week, Laura failed to push the SHF develop. The last time we successfully developed or pushed to SHF develop on Heroku was August 31st.
Ah, okay.
And then after that, we started failing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next attempt occurred on Monday of this week, like I said, and that was Laura, and she failed there. And then we've had 2 subsequent failures of trying to push.
So yeah, maybe the keys. Let's see if I can.
It's got, yeah, that's the most likely thing I would imagine.
Yeah. So hopefully it's straightforward.
Okay, so Susanna, you've got that, it sounds like. All right. Anything else on the Heroku thing at this point?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. See, one question I had on the client meeting notes.
And when you say client meeting,
Monday's
right,
Tuesday's client meeting, actually. Yeah, so there was a question there, or a comment there about this 2 types of fees, of course, the H branding and the, I guess, the membership fee or whatever the term is. And the H branding fee, because it is tax deductible, is assigned to a company, and the other fee is assigned to the individual member, because that's not tax deductible, that latter fee. So the question I have is, given the fact we don't really have an entity called a company per se, we have people, 1 or more members, who collectively comprise, who connected to this thing called a company, but it's not a real entity in our system. Company.
What do you mean by that, Patrick? Not a real entity in the system. I mean, we have a model for it.
I'm wondering how the assignment of the H branding fee to the company occurs in terms of tax deductibility in HIPS, when we don't really have a concept of a company other than a place where members are glued to it. And a company has some attributes associated with it, but we don't mark it as something that's an entity in itself and it's tax deductible in and of itself. Do you follow what I'm saying? Not, maybe it's just more like, how is HIPS going to handle it, or how's HIPS going to break apart those two fees?
Well,
or maybe we don't know at this point.
So, Patrick, what you're saying is the model that we have for company is thin. It's not very rich. We don't track very much. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. So I'm a member and I go to pay my fees, and let's say I'm the first member associated with that company who's paying fees in this new structure. So HIP says, okay, you got to pay an H branding fee because we haven't paid that for this company yet, and you got to pay your application fee. So I do that. Now the second member of the same company goes there, and what HIPS is, unless we tell it, it's just going to say, okay, I got to charge 2 more fees here, one of which will be assigned to this person's company, the other to the person. Do you see what I'm saying?
But is that a HIPS problem or a problem for SHF?
I think it might be just a HIPS problem, but I think HIPS needs to know, we're going to have to tell it, hey, we've already paid the H branding fee for this company, and the second, third, and fourth person coming in doesn't have to pay that. They just have to pay their one membership fee because the company's already covered for the year. If I've got that right.
So I think that, well, 2 things. One, yes, clearly, because we're unclear on this, both in terms of what we track and model and HIPS, we need to write this down, document, flesh out what it is we do, what our company is and our person, flesh out on our side. So that's one. And I think that it's clear we're at the point where we need to do that with, well, we need to do that. Anyway, and then 2, so yes, Patrick, I think what you're saying, well, I think what we're coming to is the information we send to HIPS, we'll have to make sure that HIPS has enough information to do this. So maybe our order page, our final payment page, checkout, may look like one thing to the user, but really what we end up doing underneath it is to send HIPS 2 different transactions.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, I'm not sure, but that's...
Yes, something like that. I guess fundamentally, though, I'm not exactly sure what it means to have the 2 fees. Does that mean each member of a company pays both fees, but they only get, they don't get to deduct from their taxes any of the fees, and the fees that collectively are paid for the company across 3 members of that company all are tax deductible for the company itself? Or does each person pay both fees? I guess let's say there's 3 members of a company. Do each of them have to pay both types of fees, or only the first one in pays the first one for the company? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't clear, that note, I guess, and maybe I'm going beyond what you guys discussed and maybe thinking it through too much at this point, but
no, I think
it wasn't
exactly.
It wasn't clear, the notes, exactly what that meant.
Right. We didn't go into that much detail, but so this is perfect. We need to.
Okay.
Susanna?
Well, we can leave it alone then, and then come back to it when we need to have more detail there. But
so, Patrick, can you enter a user story pivotal tracker and just flesh? I mean, just start it exactly like you did with the example, and then we can pick it up from there.
Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
Okay, so I guess we can, let me see, let me just make it up to myself. We can move on to pivotal tracker or whatever, but Ashley, you said you had a parking lot issue regarding? Yeah,
it's clear. I need to reduce my time a little bit on SHF. And we're kind of at a lull right now. Anyway, not a huge big deal. And we have all the rest of you working on it. So I just wanted to mention it. And then also, so I'm kind of thinking about breathing. I'm kind of thinking about what area I should focus on. So that's all. Nothing more than that at the moment. No more. I haven't thought beyond that. Just bringing it up, let you all know.
Okay. Well, it's understandable.
Oh,
Should we? Is there anything we need to talk about right now on that?
I don't think so. I just wanted to mention it.
Okay.
That's. I could talk about the weather.
There is that. Did we create a Sprint 23 yet?
No, we did.
On Tuesday? Okay.
Yeah, on Monday we just went over stuff fairly quickly, and I didn't do anything beyond that.
Okay. Did you guys go through? Well, I guess based upon what we did in the client meeting on Tuesday, we can accept, or
we did not demo anything with the client, although Susanna had looked at a few things and said, yeah, these are, and some things that had been merged, we said, yeah, those are good to go.
Okay. Is there anything we need to do? So it looks like I'm just looking at these really quickly. And I think so far all of these unfinished things have to be moved to Sprint 23 from what I could tell. Do you guys know of anything that we can mark as missing eager? Wait a minute, what about this one?
Yeah, that can be delivered. If it
As it, and
it's
this
been
one as well?
merged, and yeah.
Okay, so we're good on those. Good, excellent. Check for and correct duplicate membership numbers.
Yeah, okay. I found some duplicate numbers, and but I haven't sent them to Susanna yet, so I will do that after the meeting, Susanna. There's 3 members that have duplicate numbers in the system.
Okay. So,
Are we still planning on sitting in Slack and going through the backlog? Or the Icebox?
You mean on Pivotal Tracker?
I think at one of the previous meetings we had, there was discussion about just going into the Slack and going through the items.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Yep.
Either doing it as a hangout or through Slack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what logistics were exactly, but there was discussion about something like that.
Yep.
Just so it was less like consuming of people's focus. Or I don't know what the idea was, but or people can multitask and you like post something in Slack, and so people can look at it and then update in Slack and kind of like parallel process.
Well, yeah, you keep saying Slack, Matt. I think you mean Pivotal Tracker. Or am I not correct on that?
No, I mean Slack. I mean, we were talking about tagging things in Pivotal Tracker, but like having a discussion about items. I don't know. Maybe I remember wrong.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. And then we could discuss it in Slack or in the meeting. Yeah.
Right. So that, Patrick, I think we talked about doing it in Slack just so that people could do it a little bit on their own and then post their comments in Slack so that we don't have to schedule a meeting and time-wise, that stuff.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I think the Slack thing, as I heard, was just kind of just going back and forth on how we want to conduct the review, but there was prep work before the review to occur. People going through and marking things as, for instance, completed question mark, that type of thing. And then once we've got that prep done, it's fruitful for us to have a team discussion and go through it in real time. We certainly can't complete the grooming on a backlog just through Slack, through text messaging. I don't see that working very well. We just lose the whole benefit of the team discussion.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Both have to happen.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we go through Sprint 22, see what can be retired, and then the rest has to be moved to Sprint 23, which I can do after the meeting, or anybody can do. And then we'll go and start looking at the backlog. Susanna's already done a little bit of work, it sounds like, on taking things out that were not needed anymore. Before we do that, though, I did want to talk a little bit about this no, not that one. Let's see. What was the one that we were talking about, Robert, that you worked on, which is finding multiple membership numbers? Duplicate numbers. Which one was that?
Just generate membership. Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if Susanna was present when we talked about how we were thinking about handling that. Do you want to talk to that, Robert? So I'll take a whack at it. So the idea of Susanna, as you know, is we want to automate the creation of membership numbers. And part of the automation is that we're going to have to impose a uniqueness constraint on membership numbers. We can't have duplicate constraints. So before we do any of that, we thought, let's go look at current membership numbers and see if we can find any duplicates in the database. Hopefully none. So that was first step, which is this task here, clicked off by Robert, which he did, and he found 3 duplicates. So now we have 6 members who between them share 3 membership numbers. So that has to be figured out at the SHF organizational level, what you guys want to do with that. So you take one of those people who has a duplicate number and you contact them and say, hey, we're going to assign you another number and another, I don't know if you give them a certificate or something with a number on it or whatever. But anyway, that's got to be figured out and addressed before we move forward with what we're proposing to do to automate membership number. Because once we automate, we do have to impose uniqueness. And these members who have unique numbers, something will break along the line as they're trying to update their account, like we saw with users here. So SHF is going to have to figure out what to do. Does this all make sense? Susanna, you still there? Susanna? You're thinking?
We can't hear you, Susanna. Yeah, Patrick, did you mute her when the dogs barked?
No, I didn't mute her. She's not muted. No.
There,
No?
that's, yeah.
You're good now. We can hear you.
Okay, maybe I've been talking forever and nobody been hearing me.
Probably.
We just have to fix the numbers. We don't have to contact the members or anything, and I have access to the really old system where I can find the real numbers. So I just have to do it.
Don't they get the numbers, the members themselves?
Yes, they do, but I made sure that there were no duplicates on the membership cards. So I did that at that point there, but I didn't do it in the system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. So that's not a big problem, this one.
No. I just have to go into the really old system and find the right numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so can we then proceed? So you don't need to coordinate anything with the members then to do this.
No.
So when you do that, can you let us know which are the real numbers for these people here?
Why? Don't I just change them in the system?
That's
Yeah,
okay, but if you let us know that you did it, we can go on with this task. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, then we can move forward with the fix.
I'll try to do it tomorrow.
Okay, great.
So is there a task in Pivotal Tracker in that?
Assign me.
Yeah.
assign me as an owner too. So
Yeah.
then I will find it easily.
Okay.
Don't know.
Twice.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
How come it's not taking that? And that. Who did I? I screwed up. I made you the requester as well. I guess
That's
it doesn't
fine.
matter. Who cares? But you're on there as an owner as well. So, Ashley, sorry, you were going somewhere with that?
Nope, you got it.
Okay.
Well, that's the important thing. I just wondered if there was a detailed task listed in Pivotal Tracker for that story.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good here. Yep. This breakdown works, I think, but Robert will fix it if not.
Yeah.
Okay, so just going through this, anything else we can move to complete? Or anything? Okay, so everything else goes to Sprint 23, I'm assuming then.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. Let's see, do we want to spend a little bit of time on the icebox then? Is it worth doing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, did anybody have a chance to look at these other than Susanna and kind of prepare for a discussion on any of these?
Not really, not me.
Okay.
But yeah, why don't we just start, and if we get too far into the weeds, we can call time and make a, follow up, something.
Okay. So, add pagination to search results from the user index view. I don't think that's a Sprint 22 thing, right? What we're working on now is searching within the user. So
Well,
pagination.
Matthew,
That was a story which I split into 2 stories. I cloned the old one so it has all the same settings, except for I split the tasks or steps.
Okay, so the story that you cloned also has the same title to it. Is that right?
I updated the title, and then I just linked them together so that the blocker and I just put the blocker in there so they're linked together. You just click on it and you can. I didn't really fill in all the details or sign anything or make any decisions about it.
Yeah.
Patrick, just click on that blocker link and you'll see. Oh, no, you turned it off.
I don't want to do that.
I know, the UI needs to be clear. So this was the original one, and if you scroll down.
Add search. Okay, that's great. No, I got it.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. So I think because you're working on search for Sprint 22, shouldn't these be more like a Sprint 23 item? Do you think?
Well, I mean, it is now.
What's that?
Yeah, that seems.
No, what Matt's working on now is adding search to the user index view.
Yeah.
And this is to add pagination to the result of adding search, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can update it. Like I was saying, wasn't really making any decisions about it. I just cloned the thing and updated the title and split out the description into 2 parts.
I have to go now because dinner is ready.
Okay. Let us know how that production thing goes. Or the, no, that's Robert. The Heroku thing goes, the staging thing. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll talk later tonight. Probably not. Okay.
Probably not. Okay, so that's Sprint 23. We don't need to vote on it right now. Social media links, we can defer that, I suppose. Sort and search by membership number. That is on the user view. Is that the intent of that? Yeah, and it's got a blocker here, which is presumably, yeah, put the membership number on membership views. So I guess we don't need to actually vote on that just yet, right?
Correct.
Display membership number on views. That's 2222. Give feature tests a name. I guess we can defer that, can't we? For now, that's a nice to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we automate some PR reviewing using the danger gem? Yep.
I want to. I know I won't get it to Sprint 23, so I don't know if other people think this is so important that we put it in Sprint 23.
Yeah, not that it's very important, but it's really interesting technology.
Yeah, I've looked at it some, and it is really good to know about that, Jim.
Yeah. So I would like to play with it at least in Sprint 23.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
You want to change the owner, Patrick, while you're in there?
Sure.
Or you can just add me. I mean, it's just a spy.
Or whatever, yeah.
Yep.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Okay. That's marked as a feature. I guess we'll leave it as is.
You want to? Can you open that up?
It's not really this is just more concepts on event processing that you asked me to put down in a story. I was just saying I shouldn't really label. I should probably label it a chore. There's no real good label for this, which is conceptual.
Right.
Anyway.
It's higher level than what Pivotal Tracker really can track.
Yeah, it's not meant to do this kind of stuff. But anyway, it's just a placeholder for some ideas.
Good. Thanks.
Yep. Let's see. Update PT flow diagram to show current flow.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Okay. Send an email when membership app changes. Oh. Don't know if we need to assign that right now. So what we're looking for is stuff that we want to put in 22 or 23, right? And also stuff that we can say, well, I think that's already done through some other story.
Yep.
Visitor, yeah. I think we can hold off on this too because I don't fully understand this yet. And we're, yep.
Was that the one we talked about a client meeting ago?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. Then I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I think we need more understanding of that. That's kind of our setup instructions, which is a good one. Did we ever do anything on that?
Do that. I don't think we did.
Thought we. Where's?
And it's almost what everyone bumps into when they
I know
install Postgres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely type stuff up about that, Patrick. So that may be.
I think it was in another Pivotal Tracker issue where you wrote it down.
Yeah, it was. I'm just wondering. Okay.
But actually, it should be here somewhere. Yeah.
Do it.
It should be here, but it's not. So guess we didn't. Guess I didn't do that. Okay, so that one is. Yeah. So I guess I can put that in Sprint 23 then.
Yeah.
Shouldn't take long, and I'll give it to myself. All right, let's see. Where are we now? That's we can defer. I'm just going through these real quickly. If anybody wants to stop and discuss this. This is kind of a moonshot here. Make admin change membership app status a separate edit page. So
That, yeah.
we kind of have that working now, but yeah, it could use some restructuring when we get time. This one's been done, right?
Yeah.
So this and some other. I just thought I'd just throw it away. Turn custom reasons into standard ones. I thought we already had that done too.
No, this is more look at all the text things people have entered and decide if those need to be just part of, a standard reason that comes from the drop down. So that whole bigger thing.
Yeah. Got it. Let's see. I thought we don't have any custom reason, but I thought when there was a custom reason that I could click a button and say make a standard. But it's already been.
No,
Yeah, there's a custom
idea in a sketch or a mock-up, but no.
So it's only done in my head, huh?
Yes, in your fantasy world.
Yeah. Okay. Is that something we want to move into 23, or we can defer for now? I don't think it's in heavy use, so.
Yeah, I think defer because I don't think it's a priority at all right now.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't understand, what does the custom reason question mark column do then?
So that just, I'm not sure. Well, I'll just answer. You can tell me. So an admin can just enter free-form text as the custom reason, but we only track it in the system. We just say, oh, there's a custom reason entered. That's all. So
Okay, so we don't put it in the drop-down list then?
correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's true that that column is not.
So this column is just a yes or no. It's not a checkbox that if I uncheck it, it's now a standard reason.
I don't know right at the sec.
I wish I had some seated stuff in here, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, let me look at the view.
Mhm.
And you guys can go ahead and I'll pick this up.
Okay. Prototype, admin changing app, meta info. That's kind of the same as this one here, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's breaking these out. This is the higher level.
Yep. Yep. So we can leave that alone. Pause Google Map pop displays. I think we can leave that alone for now. Go over Google Analytics client. Don't think we can do much on that. Refute test data creation approach. That's kind of a good thing to get to eventually, but of course, the more we go forward and build more tests on top of that stuff, the more. Well, anyway, somebody's going to have to take a look at that, but that's. If anybody's interested in actually taking a whack at that, could move it forward.
Yeah.
Capistrano, UI.
Yeah, I'm actually, this is, move that into Sprint 23 because this actually overlaps with the other.
The other one you're working on. Sounds like it, yeah. Okay. UI for company has many addresses. That sounds like something we ought to get at pretty soon, don't you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Ashley already made some sort of start with a drawing in the wiki.
Yep, and it's been reviewed with the client, and so we have a good concept to start with. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good idea.
Well, why don't we, make it maybe it's a bit of a stretch goal, but certainly worth doing. Log email activity in production. That's doesn't strike me as something critical right now. But again, you guys can state otherwise.
What is it blocked by? By the email stuff itself, or?
Let's see. Oh yeah, it's the email stuff itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, blocks a bunch of stuff evidently.
This. That Tell me about that again. I mean, it's in the Rails logs, for sure.
Let me see if I can find it again.
Log email and something in there. Log email activity production.
Yeah.
It is being logged. So maybe just add a task in there, Patrick, right now. That says check Rails production logs.
Okay, so this is just for development. It's not for the users.
Well, it says production.
Okay, but it's not for the administrator, or is it?
Well, I mean, Yeah, I think it is being logged because I just did the screenshot earlier in Slack that showed here was an email that, and that's exactly what it was. It was just a screenshot
Okay.
of the production. So anybody who looks at this will be able to, maybe it's quick because it is being done.
Okay. Good. Do we want to move that to Sprint 23 then? If it's something just merely confirming?
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes with the other email work.
Are emails something that Rails tracks automatically, the email events? Like it would automatically track someone visiting the website. It would have like a request so to automatically log things like emails.
Well, I think that's the question. What do you mean by track? I mean, when that happens,
There's a file production.log and it
Yes.
says someone visited the website. It says like HTTP request.
oh,
It'd say things like jobs. Those are done. And
No,
what
that's-
else besides.
that's a different log. So what you're, I think, thinking of is the web, who handles the web request when it first hits the site, and that is the web server. And so that's something like Apache or Nginx. I think we have Nginx set up.
There's a middleware. Rails has WebBrick middleware, and it logs events.
Right. So on your development machine, or if you run WebBrick, that does, but somebody first gets that request and then sends it on to Rails. And so, yeah, there's a couple of levels and a couple of different ways that can happen. Typically, what you're referring to is handled by the web server. And so in production, you'll see the access logs for Apache or Nginx, where you'll see that kind of stuff. Who hit, what their IP address is, what browser they're using, that kind of thing. Okay? Are you confused at a higher level
I'm
now?
not confused. I have a question, which
Yeah.
is I know for a fact that there's a log that Rails keeps independent of all these other things. And like on Ruko, I know for a fact that they have a log of events. And I'm just wondering what events are logged. I know that web requests are logged.
Right.
I don't know what else is logged or not, or how it's configured. Because like you can configure it and say like logger, and then you can send a message. So you
Yes.
can right. So is that being used at all, or is that completely is that just something that's not being utilized and it's being done a different way?
It's that latter. We're not using it. We're, or at least I'm thinking of, looking at the logs from the piece we have in front of Rails, our web server. So yes, I totally agree. You can track a lot of that information in Rails and use Logger or have things set up to do it.
So like if it was something that admins would want to use, then it probably would not be that beneficial for them. But for developers, it's already a standard pipeline and process, and it's automatically built into a lot of things. You just put Augur message, then like they automatically generate dashboards for you, and you can filter by time and
Yes.
tags and so forth and so on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's different ways to do it, and different tools out there.
Yeah, we have so by default, Rails gives you a lot of login. I don't know if you've ever gone to the log directory in your project, Matt, and looked at development.log.
Yeah, that was what I was referring to. It's also production.
So production, of course, I'm not running production here, so it's empty. Test says,
I'm
not going to open this because it's huge. And then so this is what we get by default, and also by default, we're at there's 5 different logging levels Rails has, and I think in development we're set default at level 1, which is basically everything. The question is, for that story that Ashley's working on or took, is the production level logging is the logging level set in production such that we are not getting emails, sent emails being logged to our production.log file, or are they being logged? That's the question, right?
Yeah, that's.
And do we have to adjust it?
reporting.
Yeah. So it sounds like Ashley's seen in production emails showing up as if you'd see them in the console when you're running development, right? So we probably are okay there, but anyway, it has to be looked at. Okay, that's that one, Sprint 23. We're kind of at the end of the hour here, so maybe what we ought to do is stop. I think we've done enough. What do you guys think? Unfortunately, I'd like to be more prepared for this and have gone through this and select ones that I think we should discuss, or anybody can do that.
So let's make that an explicit task that we can work through on Monday, that each of us
Do that.
Yes, that each of us spend some time, and maybe that's 5 minutes, or maybe that's an hour and 5 minutes, going through Pivotal Tracker, so that when we meet again on Monday, we can
We
do
all
this.
have ideas. Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I just have one question about the task I'm doing right now. A bit late, sorry. About drawing the admin landing page. We do have an admin controller, and it seems the only use for the admin controller is the admin landing page. Is there any reason to keep the admin controller?
The original thought with doing that, and I think I was the culprit there, although I think it's the right thing, is that we need to eventually separate out the admin capability in pages. And as a first step to doing that, the admin needs different permissions, for example. So I think it hits pundit policies differently.
Okay.
So it's the first step towards separating those out.
Okay. So we don't mind if it's going to be an empty controller.
Yeah, it will be thin until we make that functionality.
Okay. Because the only thing here is the export, which I think shouldn't be in the controller, but that's a different question.
Yeah, that could definitely be a service or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, great. I just that answers my question.
Okay, cool.
Great.
All right. Well, I guess we're done then, unless there's anything else. So, Matt, if you want to hang out for a little bit, we can talk about your story or your PR.
Do you want to start a new hangout for that?
Oh, we can just continue with this.
Yeah, Robert and I will leave you to.
Yeah.
To our devices. Yep. Okay.
Okay. Bye all.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Okay, so let me see if I can find your, here we go. I think it's here. So now I've thought about it a little bit more. Clearly we didn't spec out this story very well, right? But some of these things we really don't know until we actually get into them and start looking at it. So, so the first one, of course, is I already commented on styling should look like the other search forms. You're familiar with the other search forms, right?
Yes, I've been just flipping back and forth between the company's page and I can show you like what I'm literally doing if you want to just like my process. But yeah, I've been flipping back and forth between the two pages, making them look the same.
Okay.
So there's like a scattering of Bootstrap classes. Some things have classes from Bootstrap and some don't. So I updated some of them to add all to have like consistently using Bootstrap classes, and then on top of that, adding the modifications to make them look the same.
Yep.
Some classes may be able to be removed.
Okay. All right, great. So that's basically it. You know, what is it? The search forms. Yeah, so as you know, we have a border on the form itself, and the fields themselves have borders. And then we have, in smaller font, the labels above them. So it'd be good if we could make them all look the same so the users experience.
Yeah, even, like I could show you like my progress and show you like I made some more progress. I didn't send another request and update the PR, but
Oh yeah, well let's get to
started
that
working on it.
once we go through kind of the list of things to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. You saw my note about the email predicate that you're using for search.
Right.
So email _CONT, I think works better from what I think your intent is and what would be useful to the user, right?
So it does like a not a fuzzy search, but a substring search.
It basically, yeah, does a wildcard search. It puts wildcards on either side of the substring, and it'll pick up everything that has that particular string in it, starting with it, ending with it, whatever, which is quite nice. And then you saw my note about sorting, or did you?
Yes, I saw
See
that
that?
thing on sorting.
Okay. Yeah, unless you're explicitly developing SQL that calls out a particular field, you can't sort on the column because the sorting is done by SQL when it pulls it from the database using the order by clause in SQL. So if your SQL never references a particular field, yet you want to sort by that field, the sorting is useless, right? It
Right.
doesn't work.
Except for I think Ransack. I was reading they create like virtual tables or something, and then so that's how they get the additional features.
Yeah, but if you actually look at the SQL, it actually will call out when you're doing a search and you specify specific fields and tables that you want to pull out, the SQL will call that out. And then once the column is actually specified in the SQL can add an order by referencing that column. But if you're not pulling that column out explicitly, then an order by won't be added because it doesn't know from that column. You haven't told it that you want that column to be pulled out, and you also want to sort by it. So that's one of the issues with, well, it's not an issue, but it's just, it is what it is, right?
Okay.
You can actually, I don't know if you've been able to see the wiki much, but you can actually go in and create the ransack, and then you can call for the result of executing the ransack, and then execute a method called to_SQL on that result, and it'll show you the SQL that it produced to pull out the data that you're requesting ransack to pull out. It's a really useful tool.
Okay.
So looking at the screen, let's see, I think I have that here, right? Let's see, maybe not there, maybe over here. So let me look at, so in order to make this, I've been playing with your PR a little bit here too, so don't be dismayed, but so in order to make this useful, I think in addition to email, and to make it useful, but also small enough that it's worth doing as a story and it doesn't get too big and too ahead of the users themselves. Looking at this, I think the initial primary things I'd want to search for is email. Yep. So I want to find is Rebecca in here? So yeah, there she is. Okay, great. And I want to search on maybe user yes or no. So I want to focus just on the people who aren't, who aren't members yet. So if I click on that, it'll show me just the people who are not members, and as distinct from the people who are members. So I think that's a useful start. As time goes on, I think we'll add other stuff to the search form, like maybe searching on created at greater than or equal to a specific day, that kind of thing. That might be a third item that might be useful. But I think to start out with, we ought to have these two fields in our search form as an initial stab to make it really useful for the user. So that's what that's all about there. And I can show you a little bit how to do that. The last thing is something you may not have noticed, but the column sorting right now that we're doing, by default, forces a page refresh. If you watch the right-hand side here, when I click on the email column to sort by, then I refresh the page. This thing goes all the way to the, it reorders itself at the top of the page. So what I'd like to do is have refresh occur through JavaScript. So we only update this table and we don't refresh the page every time. It'll be a lot faster. And the position of the user on the page doesn't change. So I'd like to continue to have that profile email right at the top there. But when I click on this, all of a sudden it moves down by an inch, right?
Right.
So that's what's going on there. And the way that works here is, so I've got companies here, and I want to sort by region. You see the page position is not changing. That's because this table is being updated. The entire page is not being reloaded. And it sounds daunting, but it's really not that bad. And I'll show you how to do that.
Okay.
And then you've got all the labels that we got to convert to I18N. You know that, of course, is just WIP, and then testing. And then some other ideas that we can put in other stories. You don't need to do anything here, but just looking at this, I thought created at. If we had like 300 users, I want to just see the accounts that have been created in the last week, because that's the last time I looked. So do I have any new users who have signed up? And if so, how many? So I just click on created greater than last Monday or whatever. I also may want to just search on the people who have greater than 0 applications. And applications in that view are the open applications, not the ones that have been closed and accepted. So applications that have just been created that are still pending. That may be useful. Again, it's not critical, and we certainly wouldn't want to do this in this story. This is way beyond what we should do in this one story. And then add a column sort for member column. So now I've got, you saw I have sorting working. In effect, I can specify in my sort, I want to see just people who are not members. But I wouldn't be able to, using Ransack, click on this to sort this column. And why would I sort? Because I don't have a filter on members. So I'm seeing both non-members as well as members. And so I won't be able, because I'm not using Ransack to search or to limit or to filter members to yes or no, I can't use Ransack to automatically filter that column, sort that column. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. And then add a column sort. If we also added applications, we'd have the same issue as for members. Because we're not pulling member out of the user field, and it's not even a directly associated model that we can use Ransack with, we have some complexity with sorting on member and applications if we allowed search on those. That may not mean a lot to you, but I think in a little bit of time you'll know what the hell I'm talking about.
The devise stuff, I think. Is that what you're talking about?
It's not so. No, it's not so much that. It's more. Well, let's focus on why can't I use Ransack to grab member, and if I can use Ransack to grab member out of the database, then why can't I just use Ransack sorting to sort member, for instance? Let's look at that a little bit here. So how am I doing? Okay, this is the user controller. So let me show you what my search form looks like with some additions to what you did. So this looks familiar, right?
Yes, it does.
So search form, change to the contain predicate here. And then I added another form, another element to the form, which is member. You can see that's what this is, member, yes or no, or don't care, in effect. And so I'm just using straight label tag, which is kind of the lowest common denominator in labeling helper in Rails. It's not associated with the form. It's not a form helper. It's just an HTML helper. And you can do this in Rails, by the way. You can intermix form helpers, like f.label is an actual form helper. It expects a form object followed by that method. Here, this doesn't expect a form object. It's just a low-level helper for HTML.
I looked at that, and my conclusion was that since those basically just wrap things, which is exactly what Haml does, to use Haml unless Haml cannot do what needs to be done, because it just does the same thing. It's just a wrapper.
But I'm using Haml here, right? Is that what you mean?
Oh, I mean the Haml syntax for creating a tag. So just
yeah, I see what you mean. So this is not doing much more than just what Haml would do, right?
Right. It just wraps it with a tag, which is exactly what Haml does.
Yeah. So this one is more.
Sometimes they do add in extra features. Like search form 4 does a bit extra.
Yeah. Search form 4 definitely does. So label tag doesn't buy you a lot more than what you could do by hand using Haml. Select tag, I like. You could do this by hand as well. You can actually build the string for options. In fact, this is one way I initially did it here. Oops, not that. I didn't mean to do that. So this is one way I initially did it. I just use select tag and real bare bones. I'm saying it's the field is called member, and I'm just building raw input options here, right? Which is what I did. So yes or no, that type of thing. And then include blank true means I get this blank thing at the top, which means you can leave it blank, in which case you don't care who's a member or not, they'll all show up. And the style here, what you're going to get by default in our styling, our default styling takes any selection list pull down and it makes it really wide, which is ridiculous. So I just set the styling to set it to a low minimum width so it looks reasonable. That's all. But rather than do that, I just, instead of doing this business, I went with options for select, which will create the HTML options for me, but it will also allow me to pass in an instance variable, and if the instance variable here matches one of these items, then it marks that particular item as the selected one. What do I mean by that? So if I say show me members, now I'm going to go to the controller, and it's going to, and I'll show you the controller in a second, but it will come back and it will create a collection of user objects, all of whom happen to be members. When it comes back, I see those members here, but I also see loaded here the default search entry that I did, which is, comes back and it says, yes, you're showing members yes here. If I didn't do that, if I didn't pass in this instance variable that says you asked for yes on member, then this option here would not be marked as the selected one in HTML, and I would just be at the top of this again. I would just see that again, even though I've selected yes. Is this making any sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's what that's all about. So this is a nice little helper that constructs that for me and looks at this and sets selected on one of these two if member matches, which is cool. So just to finalize that, let me show you what happened in the controller. But actually, before I do that, let me show you what's happening here. So I'm going to say, show me members no, and let's see. Go ahead and execute that. Now, what's of interest here is what's happening in the parameters being sent in. I know that's tough to read. Okay, so here's the search form field that we've got so far, email contains. But then, because I've got that select member, or that field in there that I'm calling member, it's coming back with the selected text for that, which is no, because that's what I select. So my controller now has visibility to a params called member, and it's going to be either an empty string or yes or no. So now I can exploit that in the controller, and I can get that particular parameter here. I'm calling it @member, and if it's yes, then I go through all the users that I've selected through the ransack business, And then I basically select all those users who are a member using this isMember method, which is a user instance method. If it's no, then I do the opposite, not a member, right? If it's neither one of these, I don't readjust users at all. Now, the fact also that I set member here, and when we go back to display the results of the search, member, as we talked about before, is now respected in the default selected item for member here. It sounds like a lot of gobbledygook, but you get what I'm saying? Matt, you still there?
Yeah,
Oh.
I lost you in the last thing you were saying.
Okay.
The last part. But basically, I get it. Yeah, you added a parameter for member, and the select option recognizes when the parameter is there, and it selects the option. And you basically just have to match up the naming. So
Yep,
they align.
you got it. You got it, exactly. So that's the beauty of this little helper. It manages that for me really nicely. And obviously in the controller, I'm allowing a search on member yes or no, but I'm not using Ransack for it, because Ransack wouldn't be able to help me there. Because as you know, you probably know this, in order for us to determine whether a user is a member is kind of convoluted. Let me get to that. So yeah, so here, user is member. Do they have a membership application? And is the membership application the number of membership applications for which the user has assigned to them? Are any one of those membership applications marked as for a member? So it's like 3 different levels of indirection here. There's no way Ransack's going to be able to help us with that. So in order to effect a search on that but not use Ransack, I'm doing this mechanism. So Ransack does its thing, and then from that we select a finer version of it based upon member yes or no selection. So that's all that's going on there, really.
Okay.
So with that, just go back to, so that's kind of, we talked about that, we talked about that, we talked about this, we talked about this. Okay. Do you got a few more minutes? We could talk a little bit about this one here.
Yes, I have a few minutes.
Okay. So that's so again, when we sort, we don't want to affect a full page reload. So what we're doing here in so for the company's side, we saw the way the company's thing was working. Let me just clear up here. So let's follow this through. So we have a company name, and we want to sort on that. And so what we do is we do the sort link as you have done. And there's a couple things that are different than what you're doing right now. First of all, so we have some options available to sort link, which I don't have any here, so I just give it a blank hash. And then the next hash are just standard HTML options. And so I've added this thing called class, paginate, and I'll talk about what class means here, what that does for us. And remote is true. So remote true says to Rails, when you click on this, send an AJAX call and invoke the action in the controller associated with that URL that you're sending the AJAX to. So don't send a regular HTML get, send an XML or an AJAX call to the controller. So Rails intercepts that, says, okay, this particular AJAX is invoking this action. So it invokes the action and transfers the parameters to that action, but it's all within the context of an AJAX call, not a standard request response. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe my understanding was it just adds some extra headers and emits some things that it normally does, so that they're both requests. But yeah, it's an AJAX request, and then it moves the default JavaScript the default link where it would reload page.
Yeah, that's essentially it. Going to the server, there's no headers involved, etc. It's basically passing the parameters to Rails. Rails takes them apart like it does with a normal request, creates a params hash, and then passes that on to the controller action that it invokes. So it essentially does all of that for you within the context of AJAX. Now, what do we do in the context of AJAX now that we've got such a call? So, wrong controller. So the equivalent controller for companies is index, of course. And so what it's doing here is it's going through and it's basically grabbing all the data and processing it just like you're doing. But then there's this call down here that says basically just render the partial of the table. This is the partial that contains the company's list table if I'm dealing with an XHR request. Now, what happens here is if I do not render a partial because it's not an XHR request, the default action follows, which is to render the index view, right, associated with this action.
Right, entire
page. But if I intercept it and I render something, then Rails says, okay, you've already rendered something. I don't need to render an index. You did something explicitly here, so I'm leaving it alone. So what does this mean? So it renders the company list partial. So if I go look at that, which I've got here, the company's list partial is what we were just looking at, which is this table that contains the data that I was searching for or interested in. That's essentially what it is. And it's got this ID called company's list, which we'll talk about. But the rest of this is exactly what's happening here. So I pulled out the table, which you ought to do in users as well, into a separate partial. So the jumping around here a bit. So the partial is rendered, which means that HTML is created. So how does it actually get to the view seen by the users? Well, what's happening is the third leg of this triad, which is if we look at application.js, what's happening here is really entirely embedded right here. So basically, you remember the company's pagination class. So let's see. Yeah. So the company's pagination class, which is, keep looking at the wrong index here. No, this is the one.
It shows at the bottom of the editor, bottom left corner, it shows the full path.
Yeah, so these guys here, these class companies pagination. And yeah, so it's also executed here in the pagination footer. But basically it's saying when you click on a link associated with this particular ID, then what you want to do is bind a function to the AJAX success event. And when that event fires, then update this element found through jQuery companies list with the data returned from the action controller. So let's go through this again. So we have this thing called companies list. So now with the AJAX query, it finds this element, which is the table containing the results. And it says basically replace the HTML in that element with this data. This data here, passed into the function, is exactly what is being rendered here. So this is the magic of Rails unobtrusive JavaScript. It takes this rendered item that we've rendered here, packages it up into this data argument for the JavaScript callback function. And then I can do anything I want with that data, which means I just replace the table in the user's browser with the updated table reflecting what was searched. That mechanism also is used for the pagination links. So when I go from page 1, 2, and 3 at the bottom, once we get to that, that's all being handled through JavaScript DOM element refresh, not entire page reload. That's a lot. That's a mouthful I just said, but do you kind of get the gist of what's going on there?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Ajax and web applications in general, so I have a pretty solid understanding of what happens.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't know what your background is on that, but there's a little bit of indirection going on there. But the reality is, if you just follow the links, it's really straightforward, right?
Yeah, just I I saw most of that already. I hadn't looked at the applications.js and looked at the jQuery stuff, but it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So if you follow the pattern as well for companies and applications, obviously has the same mechanism going on, right? That's you'll be able to do it fairly readily for. So in terms of this, in order to complete the effort, we do need to have the update on sorting to be handled without a full page reload using that JavaScript callback mechanism. But again, it's there. And I think the wiki page that documents this talks a little bit about that as well. It'd be interesting if you find that have you tried to look at that wiki page that talks about adding pagination? Probably not, because you're focusing on search right now.
Yeah, I did read through that because that was where I started actually, because in Pivotal Tracker, that's what you link to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I started, but then I kind of backtracked and thought maybe I should start with Ransack and try and figure out how the more basic stuff works, just instead of doing that, because that's kind of more advanced.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, actually, breaking it up into two stories, which is what you had. And so it's much more doable. If you have any comments on that wiki page, or if you just want to edit it, feel free, because I'm not sure how well it's documented there.
The only comment, or the only thing the glaring difference is how collections are handled. Just because Rails has like a convention for handling collections already,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where you take each row of the table, you can put that inside of it a partial, and then you can just render and say at at user, and it would just automatically know what you're talking about. You could just like render a user, and it knows you're talking about a row. And for the collection, you can say render user, and then collection users, and then you just say render. So you just write render user collection users, and it just knows that like the partial for one row, what that is, and knows what the partial for the table is, and it just like wires it all together automatically.
Yeah, so you're saying we don't really need to do this.
Yeah,
because we're going to be sending the collection at the top level when we invoke the partial, and then it will execute the partial for each member of this collection.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we just have like a convention for structuring it where, so it would be a little bit less code.
Yeah, so that's a good point. In fact, Rubocop complains about having instance variables referenced in partials. And doing that mechanism would have negated the need to have this instant partial referenced in the partial, this instant variable referenced in the partial. So that's a good restructuring thing we'd add later on to retrofit that into the existing ones that we've got here. Yeah, so certainly don't duplicate that problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, is there anything else we know? I took up a lot of time, but I wanted to kind of get you through my thoughts on this stuff. And which we did, I think. Did you need to show me anything? Are you in good shape, or do you have any questions about anything?
Well, I could show you what I have done so far if you want to just look at it quickly.
Sure. Okay.
Right, so I just click the screen share thing. I haven't.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't been doing this much.
Yeah, you can share your browser or the whole.
All right, can you see my screen now?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is what I was like literally just working on. This is the oh no, so yeah, manage application.
Mm-hmm.
Companies. All right, so here's the manage companies page, and then I have here the users page. and I was just like
I see. Yep.
flipping back and forth trying to get them matched up. So the comment I was making about Bootstrap is for labels they have control label. So so for this it has like that class applied, and
Mhm.
then here. Oh, yeah, and then for here they also have a control field. So you're using a different style. You're not using control field, and I'm guessing that it would break if I. So I haven't gone that far, but so
And you should be able to position the search button in the lower right-hand side. So one of the things that's missing with this screen that they're going to change, there should be ability to hide the form. If you go to Manage Applications, for instance, so you see the Hide Form button there?
okay, yeah, so I should probably be using this page.
Yeah, I
as a
would
reference.
recommend. Now, I didn't even put that in your story that you should be able to toggle the visibility of the form, but it would be nice as a stretch goal if you did, because your form now will look like this. Before it had one field, and so it was so thin, but now you'll have two fields plus the search button. It'd be good to be able to hide the form or show it
This
again.
one, it's a bit nicer. It has like padding and stuff figured out, and everything's lined up.
Yeah, and the other one does too. The thing that's missing on the other one, and if you come in as a visitor and you're looking for companies, you do have a button for hiding the form,
This form
the
doesn't
search
have,
form.
doesn't have padding around the side.
Oh, I see. Can you go back to the other one?
Yeah, this one does have padding right
Yeah,
here.
you're right. That's better. That would be good. So yeah, the other one is what you're talking about. I don't know why that is. So that's interesting. So if I'm a mere visitor, do I still have that same issue? I wonder.
So I guess what I want to look at is whatever this is. So they manually added in some bunch of stuff, it looks like.
Yeah. So yeah, I built both of those. I don't know why the padding is different from one to the other, but we definitely need to fix the padding on the company's search form. If you want to create a story, that'd be great to reflect that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I can do that. I'll use this one as a reference for now.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. So if he clicks hide form, does it work? It does work. Okay, good. Okay, good. So the behavior of these, just so you know, like if you click on last name and you get a list of last names you could pick from, that's based upon using a JavaScript library called select2. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Okay. So that allows you to do things like these fancy things, which is, show the items. And if you clicked on last name, X'd out Andreessen, just took that out. And you just type just start typing there, it'll autofill by looking up what's matching so far as you type. So you get all that great functionality using this thing called select2, which is great. But in your case, for the email, I didn't think it would be useful because email, I don't know if they're actually searching for a specific person or just they want to know, I don't know, who's associated with a particular domain like gmail.com or something. I don't know. But they may come back to us and say, why can't that work the same as incoming application search? I don't know. all of these are enabled by that select to, which you're not going to get normally, because what's happening there, it's actually, excuse me.
So I could look at the select too, but it's probably it'll make things more complicated for it. So I'll probably hold off on that.
I would definitely recommend not doing select to right now, and I don't think we necessarily need it either. I think just a free-form search using wildcarding for the email, and I think search on member, yes or no, is definitely sufficient for our first pass at that.
Okay. It's basically what I wanted to show you.
Okay, good. Making progress. Okay, cool. All right then. So, anything else we should talk about now, or pretty much cover it?
I think that's about it. So I'm going to try and get this done for I guess the sprint is supposed to end on or Monday, next Monday or something, or do you stick to those time frames, or?
I think this is the first week of Sprint 23, so we have next week as well.
First week of Sprint 23.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Sprint 22 is over now, or?
Yeah, it ended last Friday.
Okay.
Ago, so we're okay. You have plenty of time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, let me know if anything else we can elaborate on or help out with.
All right. Yeah, that's about it for now. I'll update the pull requests and I'll make a list of any questions I have.
Okay, great. Sounds good, Matt.
All right.
All right. Take care now. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.